All right, my friends, we're here in Miami Beach with the one and only living Donnie Hensley.
I'm here.
Donald Hensley. What's going on?
Not much, man. Taking in the scenery. I love it down here.
Taking in the scenery.
Absolutely.
Tell the viewers out there who you are, what you're about, where you come from.
My name is Donnie Hensley. If you haven't figured it out by the accent, I'm from the tri-state area. I'm the Senior Vice President of Business Development at SpeedTrader. I absolutely love my job, and basically what I do, that sounds really fancy, but there's nothing really fancy about it. Really what I do is just help people make money in the markets, because that's what it's all about. Down here in Miami with Patrick, love it down here.
Donnie has been a great mentor, helped me out with some ideas and kind of talking about the market in general, just trading, some fun stuff. We've had some fun times in New York City. So we just stopped in Miami. Some questions for Donnie to talk more about kind of what's going on with SpeedTrader and some of the stuff over there, some of the stuff you guys can expect. And really, I don't know, Donnie's been around for what? How long have you been kind of in the financial world now?
Financial world?
Financial world. I mean, living in New York City.
If you want to count since the day I started, it's in cockroach years. I've been around for quite a bit.
I got some questions for you, Donnie. I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna go from here to there and you answer the question. That way you don't look at both at the same time.
Sounds good, sounds good.
All right, so first question, kind of, how did you get started financial industry, kind of with SpeedTrader and trading, stock market? What was kind of your first job on Wall Street?
First job in finance, believe it or not, I was in the mortgage business. That's where I really cut my teeth. You know, I started off just writing residential properties, and then of course, you work your way up, multifamily, residential, and then I was doing commercial. Worked for a company in Connecticut where we were writing a lot of what's called B&C paper in Connecticut. And to tell you the truth, eventually it became my job to take some of that paper that we wrote and sell it to investors on Wall Street, be it banks, be it private investors, be it whoever, to bring liquidity back into the firm so that we could write more loans. This is going back to like late 90s, early 2000s. You know, I always traded my own money. When I finally got licensed, I was actually working at Chase at the time. I was a personal banker, and I liked the idea of working with people, talking to them about, you know, what they wanted to do with their money, but to be honest with you, I didn't really like the way that Chase did it. So I left there about as quick as I started. Long story really short, I was in managed money for a while. I ran basically all of the managed money for a bank in Connecticut. The best way to describe that is it's rewarding work because you're helping people, but ultimately it's feigned boredom, to be completely honest with you. You know, I love hanging out with traders. I love talking to traders. So it was right around that time that Craig called and brought me on board as SpeedTrader. It was about 2 years ago. And I mean, I'm paraphrasing. There was a lot in between. I was on Wall Street for a while, worked at a bank called HFP Capital Markets. I had a good mix of everything.
All right, so give us a breakdown on what the SVP of Business Development, is that the title?
Yeah.
The official title at SpeedTrader?
Senior Vice President of Business Development is really just that. You know, you're looking to develop ways for traders to be more confident with the firm, to bring more volume in terms of traders into the firm, help as many people out as you can. That's really what Craig pays me to do. We're working on a new platform right now. We're working on, you know, a bunch of different commission structures for people. And that's what I do, just kind of brainstorm, bring my findings to the higher-ups. And if they like them, you know, they move forward. If not, they learn something for free. But either way, I'm not here to waste their time, that I can assure you.
Give us the sales pitch on SpeedTrader, and then also give us a comparison in terms of the difference between SpeedTrader and somebody like, we'll say E-Trade.
Yeah, sure.
TD Ameritrade. What's the difference between like a direct market access? That's probably a good way to break it down. A lot of people hear the term direct market access broker, but what do you really get when you use a broker like SpeedTrader?
Yeah, SpeedTrader, the first thing I want to tell you is that, you know, anybody that comes in front of you and tells you that their brokerage is the best, is the greatest that there's ever been, you should be really kind of weary about what it is they're saying. The truth of the matter is SpeedTrader is different. You know, we're different in a way that's advantageous to traders, people who step into the market many, many, many times a day in order to achieve, you know, either short-term, day trading or swing trading. That's really who we cater to. First of all, commissions, very, very competitive to what's out there. Second of all, clearing, we're hooked up with a couple of clearing firms that will allow you to hold some of the low floats that, quite honestly, some of the bigger self-clearing firms will not let you hold, okay? Third of all, locates. You know, our ability to go out there and find shares on the street for you, for the hard to borrows. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves in. You know, I like to think that we also pride ourselves in the customer service end. I mean, The trading community is small. I think it's small for a good reason. I think that it takes a very special type of person to be a trader. And when you come on board, I try to get to know you personally, you know. I mean, there's been guys that have been with us since I started that, you know, call my cell when they need something. And I think it's that personal attention that helps people out a lot, especially gets them through their day. So yeah, that's really what, you know, the main reasons right there.
Explain to us what a clearing firm is.
SpeedTrader is what's called an introducing broker. Okay, so what that means is we do not what's called self-clear. So firms like TD Ameritrade, firms like Fidelity, firms like Interactive Brokers, they're self-clearing firms. The clearing firm basically holds custody of funds for payment and swap of securities. Okay, so when you have self-clearing firms like TD's a self-clearing firm, Fidelity, some of the other ones, there's certain shares that they just won't let you hold, okay? We're hooked up with Core Clearing and ETC. What I tell people is that if you're an options trader, you're gonna wanna use Core because the options pricing is rock bottom. If you're looking at just equities only, you're gonna wanna use ETC. And the reason is because especially if you're a short seller, they're willing to hold borrows that not every clearing firm, their risk just allows them to hold the borrows that not every clearing firm is gonna allow that particular firm to hold. And that's what people have a hard time wrapping their head around. They think, oh, well, you know, this is publicly traded, you know, I should be able to short this, you know, I should be able to get these borrows, like why do I have to, you know, some new traders are like, why do I even have to pay for borrows? You know, the truth of the matter is it's different at each firm you go to, and that's why I said earlier, like we pride ourselves in being different in a good way, you know, for pattern day traders. That's what we do.
Give us a breakdown on the economy of shorts.
The first thing I want to do is I want to explain to you what a trader's motive is when they go too short, okay? So let's say, for example, Patrick, you've got, you know, a brick of silver, whatever it is, you know, a silver brick in your house, and I say, hey, that's a really nice silver brick, what's it worth? And you say, oh, it's worth about $1,000. So I said, do me a favor, loan it to me, will you? So you say, yeah, sure. So now I have this silver brick worth $1,000. I turn around and I sell it, collect $1,000. And I notice that 2 weeks later, that very same silver brick is trading at $200. So what I do is I buy it back, okay? I keep the difference between 1,000 and 200, right? And then give the brick back to you. Okay, so with stocks, you're doing the same thing. You're borrowing, knowing that you have to give those shares back at a certain period of time, okay? Now, where those shares come from can be a little confusing to a lot of new traders. Basically, every clearing firm has a margin agreement with people that are owning stock on margin. So ideally, all these broker dealers, they all talk, we all talk to each other, and when we have somebody that's looking to short shares, you know, it's like, oh, do you have them? Yeah, I got them, okay, great, you know, you can borrow them from there. One of the things that's advantageous to SpeedTrader is we are hooked up with firms that are known on the street for finding these shares, okay? Because don't forget, you know, they're not always available. And it may not be within somebody's best interest, you know, to loan them out to you without charging a hefty premium, okay? So there's really like a little economy that goes on within the short shares, all right? Shorting is very risky. It's not for everybody. I understand that a lot of traders do it. I understand you got to make money on both sides of the market, but just keep in mind that those borrow costs, they could add up. Especially, you know, one of the stories that breaks my heart is like a stock that gets halted. You know, so if you're shorting something and the stock gets halted, guess what? You're on the hook for those costs to borrow every day.
I saw a story of a guy talking about how there's a stock that halted for months and he's been paying the borrow fees.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it can get kind of crazy. So what I tell people is if you're gonna short, you're well within your right to do so. I never want to discourage anybody from doing that. If you're good at it, I think it's great. But I also think, much like everything else, you should be aware of what the risks to shorting are.
Obviously, you work with a lot of different types of traders. You got the beginners, you got the intermediates, you got the millionaire traders who call you up and say, hey, I want to put an account with you. What are some little things?
Well, first things first, I think that people have to realize that there are perks that come with having a big account that you with a small account are just not going to get. And that's not me being mean or disingenuous. It's not saying that if you come to me with only, you know, 25 or 26,000, I'm not going to give you my best. I am. It's just that there are some traders out there that get the rock bottom commissions because they trade millions of shares a day. Okay, there are people that have low margin rates because they have millions of dollars on margin, right? So that's the first thing that I would realize as a trader. The second thing I would try and get the hang of is really market mechanics. So, you know, being able to understand that the market is just this living, breathing thing that changes every day. So a strategy that made you money consistently 3 or 4 years ago. So one of the things that I would really remember is that market mechanics, you know, like something that made your guru money years ago may not necessarily work in today's market. So you always want to be careful of the fact that the market is just this living, breathing thing that is always changing. So you have to stay on top of it. You know, you have to stay on top of the trends and everything else. I would also say stay as educated as you can, read as many books as you can, try and find out as much about the market as you can. Talking to traders is my favorite part because, you know, each person is different, but we all have something in common. You know, we're not here to like kind of hang out and spread the wealth around, you know. I mean, you know, we're here to make money. And some of the guys that I have at SpeedTrader that I take care of, man, I'm telling you, they do a good job of that. They really do.
How does somebody create a relationship with their broker? Is it important?
When you come over to us, I mean, we understand that trading is difficult, okay? You know, when you come over to us, I'm gonna try and take care of you. I really take a look at what you've done before and then kind of give you a commission program that will incentivize you to be with us. Now, the truth of the matter is that, you know, if you're not trading a lot of shares, it doesn't matter, unfortunately, how nice of a guy or girl you are. You know, I mean, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. At the end of the day, we try to give people what we believe is fair, you know, and that's another thing. Like, one of the things that we do that not a lot of other places will do, like, and I'm not bashing them because they do a lot of great things, okay? But for example, I know that TD Ameritrade will put you on the ARCA route, as we do, but we give you the rebate that ARCA gives you for that liquidity. TD does not rebate you anything. It's $6.95, right? So that's a little thing. It's like, yeah, you know, you may be at, you know, 39 mils a share, but if I show you how to use those rebates day in and day out, you know, you could get yourself to the point where you're like, all right, you know what, now I'm only paying 19 mils a share because I'm getting the rebate. And, you know, these are the things that can work. You know, one of the things that I do, Patrick, when I'm bored is I will just take a look at order flow and I'll be like, look, you know, you had these limit orders here, 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 here. If you would have used ARCA or INET, you would have had this much money in rebates. Yeah, rebates are liquidity. So here's the thing. Traditionally, when you put an order through, it would go through the market maker that would fill it, okay? Market maker would place it on the order book of the exchange. What we do is we use electronic routes that bypass, they're called ECNs, electronic communication network, right? They bypass the market maker and put you directly on the order book of the exchange. So that does two things. What it does is the opportunity for a better fill, but more importantly, well, I shouldn't say more importantly, but just as important, it gives you the opportunity for a rebate, okay? So if you use ARCA or INET, first of all, ARCA and INET are two of the most liquid, I mean, it's New York Stock Exchange is ARCA, NASDAQ is INET, right? So those are two very, very liquid routes, you know, and they're gonna reward you for using them, okay? That having been said, you know, if you're trading tons, I mean, I have traders that are down in the 20 mils a share because they trade so much. They trade about 1 million shares a day. When they're using ARCA, effectively they're trading for free, you know? Guys that use me that trade 2 million shares a day are around 15 mils a share, and you wanna know something? We actually pay them with the rebates, which is, you know, that's really where you wanna be. My favorite part of the day is when I call some of my traders, I'd be like, hey man, you know what? Like, congratulations, like last month, you just hit the 300,000 share mark, which means you don't qualify for this anymore. Like, I get to drop your commission down. That's always a great conversation. You know, fortunately, I never have conversations the other way. You know, I never have, hey, you know, you didn't trade enough, so I'm going to bump up your commission. We don't do that. I know some firms, I've heard of some firms that do. We don't. But believe me, that's the best part of my day when I give somebody that phone call, because especially if they're profitable. You know, you traded 300,000 shares last month and you're profitable. It's like, okay, well, cool. Well, you know, let's bump you down. Let's incentivize you a little bit more.
This might not be good for business, but maybe you could answer this. So it seems like commissions are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, Donnie.
Yeah.
Is every broker that's gonna be free commissions?
First things first, I think that there's two types of people out there. There are the informed and there are the uninformed, okay? So, you know, will commissions go to zero? They're already there. I mean, Robinhood's out, they're already there. Robinhood makes their living selling your order flow. Is that a bad thing? I don't know, you tell me. You know, if you're trading a couple of hundred shares a year, do you care if somebody's selling that order flow? Probably not. You know, if you're trading every day, maybe you do. Another thing is maybe the fills aren't where you need them to be. That's the difference between us, is that we're a direct market access broker, so we give you those ECNs that give you the opportunity for a better fill. And I'll give you an example. If you use us, and we are able to reduce the price per share that you pay by 1 cent on a 20,000 share order, you know, what would you rather have? Would you rather have that savings, or would you rather have free commissions? You know, because if you want free, I mean, honestly, like, we can do it. You know, it really just depends on what people are looking for. Competition in the market, you know, to be a trader, yeah, there's more algos coming out every day. The barriers to entry are there, where, you know, the pattern day trader rule, the thing that like kills a lot of guys that are trying to get started. They don't have 25 grand, right? So there's that barrier to entry. But once you get there and you're consistent, it doesn't really bother you too much. Are people going to have to start getting better? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
do you see the overall retail trading world growing as a whole in terms of having more traders? Or do you think it's going to get smaller and it's going to be just more algos and automated trading?
I'd like to say that it's going to be a combination of both. And I'd like to say that it's going to be a lot of algos around, a lot more than we have now. You know, there's always going to be some computer programmer that thinks that he can beat the market through AI, through whatever. You know, and there's definitely going to be more traders over the years. There's definitely going to be more people that are looking to go to the market to make money versus a 9-to-5. You know, we have the gig economy now, right? Like, people are driving for Uber, people are doing all these little gigs. I mean, I know some traders that consider what they do a gig, right? I mean, most guys that just trade the open, that's 15 minutes out of the day. You got the rest of the day to do whatever you want. So I think as that catches on, as that ethic catches on, you're going to see more people, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm getting hungry again. I'm getting thirsty again. So I think it's time we go find a little spot here in Miami. We're going to go out fishing later on. But again, thank you to Donnie for stopping by. Breaking down, you know, on his way to Texas to handle more business. This guy's always on the go. Definitely a good person to know. If you want to learn more about SpeedTrader, I guess you just go on over there to speedtrader.com/Patrick.
Yeah.
Somewhere like that. There's a link down below if you want to learn more about SpeedTrader. Check them out, and you can, I think you can literally email you, right? There's an email somewhere out there for you if you want to talk to this guy. So if you want to learn more, I'll just put an email down there.
Put it in the thing. Yeah, that's it.
Sorry, you're probably getting like 1,000 emails from everybody like, hey Donnie, how do I buy? How do I sell stocks? Just to make it clear, Donnie does not teach people how to trade, but he can help you learn more about SpeedTrader. So if you want to learn more about SpeedTrader, you know where to go. Hit that link down below. And also, if you haven't already, I don't know why you haven't subscribed. It's all this beautiful information. People like Donnie on here, people like Steve, and more people coming real soon. So hit that subscribe button.